In the midst of a lavish party, a paralyzed billionaire fell into the pool without anyone noticing. Surrounded by politicians and businessmen, he slowly sank while everyone laughed and toasted. It was the maid's daughter, a 7-year-old girl, who dove in without a second thought. Her unexpected act not only saved a life, it revealed secrets that would destroy an empire. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The Hamptons estate stood as a modern-day palace, 20 acres of pristine waterfront property on Long Island's most exclusive shore. Its owner, tech mogul Ethan Caldwell, had transformed a simple software idea into Caldtech Industries, an empire worth billions. Today, as the summer sun blazed down on the immaculate gardens, the mansion's Olympic-sized pool sparkled like a sheet of blue crystal, surrounded by New York's elite who had gathered to celebrate Ethan's latest acquisition. A revolutionary AI company that would cement his position at the top of Silicon Valley's hierarchy. From his motorized wheelchair positioned slightly away from the crowd, Ethan observed the festivities with detached interest. His steel-gray eyes, sharp as ever despite the paralysis that had claimed his lower body 2 years ago, catalogued each guest's expression, each insincere smile, each calculated laugh. The car crash that had shattered his spine had also hardened whatever softness remained in his character. At 45, he had become even more reclusive, more controlling, more suspicious of others' intentions. "Darling, won't you join us closer to the pool?" His wife Vanessa approached, her champagne flute catching the sunlight. At 38, she remained the picture of Hampton's elegance, tailored white sundress, diamond earrings that cost more than most people's homes, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Senator Williams has been asking about you. Tell him I'll be there shortly," Ethan replied without looking at her, his voice as cool as the air-conditioned breeze flowing from the mansion's open doors. Vanessa's perfectly painted lips tightened slightly before she turned back toward the party. Their 12-year-old son, Parker, was nowhere to be seen, probably hidden away in the house, buried in his books or computer games, avoiding the social performance expected of a Caldwell heir. Ethan adjusted his wheelchair's position, moving closer to the pool's edge to better observe a potential competitor engaged in conversation with one of his board members. So focused was he on reading their lips that he failed to notice the small remote control for his home automation system slipping from his lap. When he leaned forward to retrieve it, a small but catastrophic shift in his balance occurred. In one horrifying moment, the wheelchair tipped forward. Ethan felt the sickening sensation of falling, then the shock of cold water enveloping him, the weight of his useless legs and the heavy motorized chair dragging him down toward the pool's tiled bottom. Panic flooded his system as water filled his lungs. The irony wasn't lost on him. Surrounded by 100 guests, yet no one had noticed him vanish beneath the surface. On the far side of the pool area, near the service entrance to the kitchen, sat 7-year-old Hannah Thompson, quietly nibbling on a stolen pastry. Her mother, Marie Thompson, had been cleaning the Caldwell mansion for 3 years. Today, with school closed for summer break and no one to watch her, Hannah had come along, instructed to stay out of sight and be as invisible as possible. But Hannah wasn't good at being invisible. Her wide brown eyes noticed everything, including the moment when the man in the wheelchair disappeared into the water with barely a splash, the pool's surface rippling briefly before settling back to its deceptive calm. She glanced around. No one else had seen. The music played on. Glasses clinked, laughter continued. Without hesitation, Hannah dropped her pastry and ran, her small white sneakers slapping against the stone patio. Without slowing down, she launched herself into the deep end of the pool, her yellow sundress billowing around her as she plunged toward the sinking man. The water muffled the party sounds as Hannah kicked downward. At the bottom, she found Ethan, struggling weakly, his eyes wide with terror and fading consciousness. His wheelchair had settled on the pool floor, pinning one of his arms. Hannah grabbed his shirt collar and pulled with all her might, but he was too heavy. Changing tactics, she swam to his trapped arm, tugged it free, then wrapped her small arms around his chest from behind. With every ounce of strength in her 7-year-old body, Hannah kicked toward the surface, dragging the much larger man with her. Her lungs burned. Her muscles screamed. But something inside her, something fierce and determined, refused to give up. They broke the surface with Hannah gasping and shouting, "Help! Help us!" Water streamed from her dark braids as she struggled to keep Ethan's face above water. For several seconds the party continued, oblivious. Then, like a wave of awareness, silence fell across the gathering. All eyes turned to the impossible sight. A tiny girl in a soaked yellow dress, keeping a grown man afloat. "Oh my God, it's Ethan!" Vanessa's scream shattered the stunned silence. Chaos erupted. 2 security guards dove into the pool, relieving Hannah of her burden. The crowd pressed forward, some with phones raised, capturing the dramatic scene. Hannah treaded water, suddenly uncertain and overwhelmed by the attention. A hand reached down from the pool's edge. Her mother, face pale with fear and pride. "Come here, baby," Marie whispered, pulling her daughter from the water and wrapping her in a jacket someone had offered. On the pool deck, the security team performed CPR on Ethan's motionless form, while Vanessa hovered nearby, manicured hands pressed to her mouth. Parker had emerged from the house, standing at the fringe of the crowd, watching with wide, stunned eyes as strangers fought to revive his father. "The ambulance is 3 minutes out," announced the head of security, pressing a finger to his earpiece. Marie held Hannah close, both of them shivering despite the summer heat. "What were you thinking?" she murmured into her daughter's wet hair. "You could have—" She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't bear to think of what might have happened. "He was drowning, Mummy," Hannah said simply, as if that explained everything. And perhaps it did. When the paramedics arrived, cutting efficiently through the crowd of onlookers, they quickly took over Ethan's care. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, his eyes fluttered open, disoriented and searching. His gaze landed on Hannah, still dripping and small in her mother's embrace. Something passed between them. Recognition, connection, something neither could name but both felt deeply. Then he was gone, whisked away in a wail of sirens, Vanessa and Parker following in one of the family's luxury SUVs. Marie and Hannah remained by the pool, suddenly conspicuous among the dispersing guests. The head housekeeper approached them, her face a mix of emotions. "Mrs. Caldwell asked that you both stay. She'll want to speak with you when she returns from the hospital." Marie nodded, though her expression betrayed her uncertainty. She worked for the Caldwells, cleaned their massive home 6 days a week, but had spoken directly to Vanessa Caldwell perhaps a dozen times in 3 years. What would happen now? As the crowd thinned, whispers followed them. Hannah caught fragments. "Housekeeper's daughter and little hero and can you believe it?" Someone pressed a towel into her hands. Someone else offered her a cookie. A reporter who had been covering the high-profile gathering tried to approach, but was intercepted by security. "Come on," Marie said quietly, leading Hannah toward the staff quarters at the rear of the property. "Let's get you into dry clothes." As they walked away from the pool, Hannah looked back once more at the wheelchair, now being retrieved from the bottom of the pool by one of the security guards. She couldn't understand why, but she felt certain that her life had just changed forever, that in saving Ethan Caldwell, she had set in motion events that would transform everything she knew. She was right. By nightfall, the Caldwell mansion had emptied of guests, but filled with tension. Marie and Hannah sat in the staff break room, a modest space that contrasted sharply with the opulence just beyond its doors. Hannah, now dressed in spare clothes kept in her mother's locker, swung her legs nervously from a chair too tall for her small frame. Marie's phone buzzed constantly with notifications. The video of Hannah's rescue had already gone viral. "Mum, is Mr. Caldwell going to be okay?" Hannah asked, her voice small in the quiet room. Marie squeezed her daughter's hand. "I think so, honey, thanks to you." What she didn't say was how terrified she felt about the attention suddenly focused on them. In 3 years of working for the Caldwells, Marie had carefully maintained her invisibility. Single mothers with limited education didn't last long in homes like this if they drew notice. The door opened and Sandra Powell, the family's executive assistant, entered. Her tailored suit showed no wrinkles despite the day's chaos, her expression professional but warmer than usual. "Miss Thompson, Hannah." Sandra nodded to each of them. Mrs. Caldwell has returned from the hospital and would like to see you both. In the main study. Marie stood, smoothing her uniform skirt reflexively. How is Mr. Caldwell? Stable, Sandra replied. The doctors are optimistic. She hesitated, then added more softly, your daughter saved his life. They're calling it a miracle. Hannah looked up at the word miracle, her eyes wide. She'd never been called miraculous before. Sandra led them through the mansion's hushed corridors, past priceless artwork and furnishings that Hannah had been taught never to touch. The main study, Ethan's private sanctuary, was a room Marie cleaned, but where she never lingered. Its walls of dark wood paneling and leather-bound books created an atmosphere of old money, despite the cutting-edge technology hidden within its classical design. Vanessa Caldwell stood by the fireplace, her party dress exchanged for silk loungewear, a tumbler of amber liquid in her hand. Parker sat in an armchair in the corner, his attention fixed on a tablet, though his eyes flicked up when they entered, studying Hannah with undisguised curiosity. Marie. Vanessa's voice carried the practiced warmth of someone accustomed to managing household staff. And Hannah, our little hero. Marie felt Hannah press against her side, suddenly shy. Mrs. Caldwell, we're so relieved to hear Mr. Caldwell is stable. If there's anything we can do, there is actually. Vanessa set down her glass and approached them. Up close, the perfect facade showed cracks, smudged mascara, a slight tremor in her manicured hands. What happened today? The doctors say if Hannah hadn't acted so quickly, Ethan would have... She left the sentence unfinished, glancing at Parker. We owe your daughter everything. Hannah looked up at the elegant woman, confusion clear on her face. In her 7 years, adults had rarely spoken about her as if she mattered. The media is already calling, Vanessa continued, addressing Marie directly. This story, a billionaire saved by a housekeeper's child, it's catnip to them. By morning, they'll be camped outside. Marie's stomach tightened. We don't want any attention, Mrs. Caldwell. Hannah just did what anyone would do. But that's just it. Vanessa's polished veneer cracked further, revealing something raw beneath. No one else did anything. Not me, not our friends, not our security team. A child saw what we all missed. She took a deep breath. Ethan is asking for her. For Hannah? Marie's protective instincts flared. When he regained consciousness, the first thing he said was, the little girl. Vanessa's eyes shifted to Hannah. He wants to thank her personally when he returns home tomorrow. Parker, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke. Dad never thanks anyone. His voice carried the flat effect of pre-adolescence, but his eyes remained fixed on Hannah with something like wonder. Vanessa shot her son a warning look before turning back to Marie. We'd like to propose an arrangement. Hannah has clearly formed some kind of connection with Ethan. His doctors suggest that positive emotional experiences could benefit his recovery. Marie tensed. What kind of arrangement? A position for Hannah as a companion for Ethan, supervised, of course, a few hours after school, perhaps weekends sometimes. She would read to him, keep him company. Children have a way of cutting through defenses. Vanessa glanced at Parker again, something unspoken passing between them. The compensation would be substantial. Marie felt her defenses rise. Hannah isn't for hire, Mrs. Caldwell. She's a child, not staff. Though, of course, I didn't mean... For the first time, Vanessa seemed flustered. Please understand, Marie, Ethan hasn't connected with anyone since the accident. Not me, not Parker, not his oldest friends. Whatever happened in that pool... She gestured vaguely. The doctors believe it might have triggered something important psychologically. Hannah, who had been listening intently, suddenly spoke. Is Mr. Caldwell sad? The directness of her question silenced the room. After a pause, Vanessa answered with surprising honesty. Yes, Hannah. He's been very sad for a long time. Hannah nodded, as if confirming something she'd already sensed. I could read to him. I'm good at reading. Marie looked down at her daughter, startled by her willingness. Hannah, baby, we need to think about this. There would be additional considerations, Vanessa pressed on. A confidentiality agreement, the media attention, and it could be harmful to everyone involved if not managed properly. Ethan values his privacy above all else. Understanding dawned on Marie. This wasn't just about Hannah's connection to Ethan, it was about controlling the narrative. A 7-year-old hero made for better headlines than a billionaire whose entire social circle had failed to notice him, drowning. "We need time to consider," Marie said firmly. Vanessa nodded, retrieving an envelope from the desk. "Of course. This contains our offer, including compensation. Please review it." She hesitated, then added with unexpected sincerity, "Whatever you decide about the arrangement, we owe Hannah an enormous debt. That will never change." As they turned to leave, Parker suddenly stood. "Wait." He approached Hannah, stopping a few feet away. At 12, he towered over her, but there was nothing intimidating in his stance. "Thank you," he said simply, "for saving my dad." Hannah smiled shyly. "You're welcome." In the hallway outside, Sandra waited to escort them back to the staff area. As they walked, Marie's mind raced with implications. The envelope in her hand felt heavy with potential. Money that could transform their lives, pay for Hannah's college someday, perhaps even buy a small house instead of their cramped apartment. But at what cost? "They'll be sending a car for you tomorrow morning," Sandra informed them. "You should both stay home, paid leave of course, until this media situation stabilizes." Back in their apartment above a hardware store, in Southampton's less glamorous district, Marie sat at their small kitchen table long after Hannah had fallen asleep. The offer letter laid before her spelled out terms that seemed impossible. A salary that dwarfed her current income, health insurance, a college fund for Hannah, even housing assistance. All for Hannah to spend time with a man she'd saved, under a veil of carefully managed publicity. Marie's phone buzzed again with a news alert. The local station had picked up the story. Hampton's billionaire rescued by housekeeper's daughter. There was already speculation about Ethan's condition, about why no one else had noticed his fall, about Hannah's extraordinary courage. In their tiny bedroom, Hannah slept peacefully, unaware of how her impulsive act of bravery had catapulted them into a world they didn't belong in. Marie watched her daughter's chest rise and fall, overwhelmed by pride and fear in equal measure. "What have we gotten ourselves into, baby girl?" she whispered. The next morning, as promised, a sleek black SUV arrived to take them to Southampton Hospital. Marie had explained to Hannah that they were just visiting to check on Mr. Caldwell, that no decisions had been made about the arrangement. Hannah had nodded seriously, clutching a book she'd selected to bring, her favorite story about a brave knight and a dragon who became unlikely friends. At the hospital, they were whisked through a private entrance, away from the small gathering of reporters at the main doors. Sandra met them in a private waiting area, her efficiency in full force. "He's awake and alert," she informed them. "The doctors say there's no permanent damage, though he'll need rest. You'll have 15 minutes. She looked directly at Hannah. "He's been asking for you since he woke up." When they entered the private room, Marie was struck by how different Ethan Caldwell looked, without his usual armor of expensive suits and stern expression. In a hospital gown, with his hair disheveled and a day's stubble on his jaw, he seemed almost human. His eyes, however, remained penetrating. They fixed on Hannah the moment she entered, lighting with recognition and something more complex. For a man known for his emotional detachment, the naked gratitude in his expression was startling. "My little rescuer," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "Come closer. I want to see you properly." Hannah approached the bed without fear, the book clutched to her chest. "I brought you a story, Mr. Caldwell," she said, "for when you feel better." As Ethan looked from the child to the book she offered, something shifted in the room, a connection forming that would change both their lives in ways none of them could possibly imagine. 3 weeks later, the Caldwell mansion had settled into a new routine. After much deliberation, Marie had accepted a modified version of Vanessa's offer. Hannah would visit Ethan 3 afternoons a week after school, always with Marie nearby. The media frenzy had dimmed to a low simmer, managed by the Caldwells' expert PR team, who had released a carefully crafted statement and a single photograph of Hannah and Ethan together, her beaming, him with the hint of a smile that had surprised even Vanessa. On this particular Wednesday afternoon, Hannah sat in Ethan's sunlit home office, perched on a specially purchased chair that brought her to the perfect height for their shared activities. She was reading aloud from The Secret Garden, her small finger tracing under each word, occasionally stumbling over the more difficult Victorian English. When Mary Lennox was sent to Misselthwaite Manor to live with her uncle, everybody said she was the most disagreeable-looking child ever seen, Hannah pronounced carefully. She looked up at Ethan. What does disagreeable mean? Ethan, seated in his wheelchair by the window, turned from the garden view to consider her. It means unpleasant, someone people don't enjoy being around. Hannah nodded thoughtfully. Like you were before. 3 weeks ago, such directness might have offended him. Now Ethan merely raised an eyebrow. Was I disagreeable? Mom said you never smiled and everyone was scared to talk to you. Hannah shrugged. But I think you were just sad. In the corner of the room, Marie looked up from her tablet, mortified. Hannah, that's not... I never said... But Ethan held up a hand, actually chuckling. It's all right, Marie. Your daughter's honesty is refreshing. He focused back on Hannah. You're right, I was sad and angry. Sometimes I still am. Hannah closed the book, marking their place with a rainbow bookmark. Because you can't walk anymore? Or because people treat you different now? Marie inhaled sharply, but Ethan's expression remained open. In these weeks of Hannah's visits, Marie had witnessed a transformation in the tech mogul. With her daughter, he spoke more freely than he did with anyone else, including his own family. Both, he admitted. And because I lost something I didn't know was important until it was gone. What's that? Hannah leaned forward, genuinely curious. Ethan considered his answer carefully. Control, perhaps. Or the illusion of it. He glanced at Marie, then back to Hannah. Before my accident, I believed I could control everything in my life if I just worked hard enough, planned well enough. Now I know better. Hannah thought about this. Like when you fell in the pool. You couldn't control that. Exactly like that. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Vulnerability, perhaps. But you could. You controlled what happened next. From the doorway came a new voice. Is that why you're so obsessed with her? Because she gave you back some control? Parker stood there, backpack slung over one shoulder, school uniform slightly rumpled. His relationship with his father had always been complicated, but since the pool incident, it had grown more strained. The boy watched his father's interactions with Hannah with a mixture of fascination and resentment. Parker, Ethan's voice cooled slightly. I didn't hear you come in. Obviously. The boy's eyes shifted to Hannah. There was no malice in his gaze, just confused hurt. Mom says dinner's at 7. She's having some board members over. Without waiting for a response, he disappeared down the hallway. Hannah looked after him, brow furrowed. He doesn't like me. That's not true, Ethan said quickly. Parker is complicated. He's had a difficult time since my accident. Marie stood, sensing the shift in atmosphere. We should probably wrap up for today, Hannah. Mr. Caldwell needs to prepare for his dinner. Hannah nodded, but as she gathered her things, Ethan reached out, touching her arm lightly. Would you do something for me, Hannah? Would you try to be friends with Parker? He could use someone who sees people as clearly as you do. Hannah considered this request seriously. I'll try, but he has to try too. Ethan's mouth quirked in what was becoming a more frequent smile. That's fair. As Marie and Hannah prepared to leave through the staff entrance, they encountered Vanessa in the kitchen, discussing menu details with the chef. When she saw them, she excused herself and approached with her usual polished grace. Marie, Hannah, how was today's session? Though she always referred to Hannah's visits as sessions, as if they were therapeutic rather than personal. Very good, Mrs. Caldwell, Marie replied formally. Though the woman signed her paychecks, Marie had never felt comfortable in her presence. There was something calculating behind Vanessa's carefully maintained facade. Wonderful, Vanessa smiled at Hannah. You know, the Horizon Children's Charity Gala is next weekend. The board thought it might be nice to honor Hannah there, Young Hero of the Year, or something similar. It would be excellent publicity. Marie stiffened. I'm not sure that would be appropriate. We agreed Hannah wouldn't be paraded for publicity. Vanessa's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened slightly. Of course, I understand your concerns, but this is a prestigious event, Marie. Governor Matthews will be there, celebrities, CEOs. It could open doors for Hannah's future. Before Marie could respond, Hannah spoke up. Will Parker be there? The question seemed to catch Vanessa off guard. Parker? Well, yes, he usually attends family events. Then I'll go, Hannah decided. I promised Mr. Caldwell I'd try to be friends with Parker. Vanessa looked bemused, glancing between Hannah and Marie. Well, that's settled then. Sandra will be in touch about appropriate attire. With a nod, she returned to the chef, already refocused on the evening's dinner preparations. Outside in the late summer sunshine, Marie took Hannah's hand as they walked toward the bus stop that would take them back to their apartment. Since accepting the Caldwell's arrangement, Marie had reduced her cleaning shifts, but insisted on maintaining some normalcy in their lives, including taking public transportation when not officially on duty for Hannah's visits. Hannah, Marie, began carefully. You know you don't have to do everything Mr. Caldwell asks, right? If you don't want to go to that fancy party, or if you don't want to be friends with Parker, that's okay. Hannah kicked at a stone on the sidewalk. I know, but I think Parker is lonely. He doesn't have any friends who come over, and he's always by himself, like I used to be before Lily and Emma started sitting with me at lunch. Marie squeezed her daughter's hand, heart swelling, with pride at her empathy. Since the rescue, Hannah had gained a certain confidence at school. Being known as the girl who saved a billionaire had transformed her social standing. Marie worried about this newfound popularity. What would happen when the story faded from memory? Besides, Hannah continued, I think Mr. Caldwell gets sad when Parker doesn't want to be near him. Maybe if Parker and I are friends, he'll want to be around his dad more. Such wisdom from her little girl. Marie wondered not for the first time what she'd done to deserve such a child. That evening, as Hannah slept, Marie received an unexpected call. The screen displayed Jason Bennett, a name she hadn't seen in months. Jason was a reporter for the Southampton Press who had been investigating the Caldwell empire for years. Before Hannah's heroics, he had occasionally contacted Marie as a potential source. She had always refused to speak with him, fearing for her job. After a moment's hesitation, she answered, This isn't a good time, Jason. It never is, came the easy reply. But I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. His voice lowered. That pool incident? I don't think it was an accident. Marie's blood chilled. What are you talking about? Sources inside Caldtech suggest Ethan has been making enemies. That revolutionary AI acquisition they were celebrating? There are ethical concerns, patent disputes. Some are suggesting the whole drowning incident was a sympathy play, a distraction from questions about their business practices. That's absurd, Marie said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. I was there. I saw Hannah pull him out. I'm not questioning that your daughter saved him, Jason clarified. I'm questioning whether he needed saving at all, or if he engineered the whole thing. Engineered falling into a pool? He's paralyzed, Jason. He nearly died. Did he? Or was that what we were meant to think? There was a rustling of papers on his end. Look, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but the timing is suspicious. Right when the tech blogs were starting to ask tough questions about this acquisition, suddenly Ethan Caldwell is the sympathetic figure in a near tragedy, saved by an adorable 7-year-old. Marie's mind raced. Could it be possible? She remembered Ethan's face in the hospital, the genuine connection he seemed to have formed with Hannah. No, it couldn't have been fake. I have to go, she said firmly. Marie, wait, there's more. That confidentiality agreement you signed, I had a lawyer friend look it over. It's unusually restrictive, even by billionaire standards. Whatever they're hiding, she ended the call, hands shaking slightly. Jason had always been something of a conspiracy theorist when it came to the ultra-wealthy, seeing schemes and plots where there might simply be ordinary human behavior. Still, his words had planted a seed of doubt. The next afternoon, Hannah's visit with Ethan took a surprising turn when Parker unexpectedly joined them in the garden. The boy brought his tablet, sitting silently nearby while Hannah and Ethan discussed her school project on butterflies. But gradually, drawn by Hannah's enthusiastic descriptions of chrysalis formation, Parker edged closer. "Actually," he said, speaking directly to Hannah for the first time, "I did a report on monarch migration last year. I could show you some of the cool videos I found." Hannah's face lit up. "Really, that would be awesome." Something like hope flickered across Ethan's features as he watched the two children bent over the tablet, Parker explaining the remarkable journey monarchs made each year. For a moment, Marie could almost believe they were just a normal family. No billion-dollar empires, no mysterious accidents, no confidentiality agreements. But as Vanessa appeared at the terrace doors, her smile fixed and her eyes calculating. As she observed the scene, Marie remembered Jason's warning. What exactly had she and Hannah been drawn into? And what would it cost them in the end? The Horizon Children's Charity Gala transformed the Southampton Yacht Club into a shimmering wonderland of white lights and blue hydrangeas. Celebrities, politicians, and titans of industry mingled under crystal chandeliers, their collective net worth rivaling the GDP of a small nation. In this rarefied atmosphere, Hannah stood beside Marie, both feeling distinctly out of place, despite their carefully selected attire. Hannah's dress, a pale blue confection with layers of tulle, had been delivered to their apartment that morning, along with a more subdued navy cocktail dress for Marie. A note from Sandra had explained that these were gifts, not loans, but Marie couldn't help feeling that accepting them somehow deepened their obligation to the Caldwells. "Remember," Marie whispered to Hannah as they followed a tuxedoed usher to their assigned table, "you don't have to make any speeches if you don't want to. Mrs. Caldwell said they'd understand if you're too shy." Hannah nodded, wide eyes taking in the glittering scene. "I'm not scared," she said, though she gripped her mother's hand tightly. "I just don't understand why everyone wants to make such a big deal about it. I just did what anyone would do." But that was precisely it. No one else had done what Hannah did. That reality had haunted Marie ever since Jason's disturbing phone call. If Ethan's fall had been staged, why had no one else been positioned to save him? Why leave it to chance that a 7-year-old would react with such extraordinary courage? They reached their table, positioned prominently near the stage. To Marie's surprise, they weren't seated with the Caldwells, who occupied the central table with various dignitaries. Instead, their table companions included the head of pediatrics from Southampton Hospital, 2 board members from the children's charity, and, Marie's heart sank slightly, Jason Bennett, press badge prominently displayed on his tuxedo lapel. "Ms. Thompson." Jason stood, pulling out a chair for her with a smile that held just a hint of triumph. "What a pleasure to see you again." "Mr. Bennett," Marie kept her voice neutral as she helped Hannah into her seat. "I didn't realize you covered charity events." "I cover interesting stories wherever they happen," he replied smoothly, his gaze shifting to Hannah. "And you, Miss Thompson, are definitely an interesting story." "I'm Jason. I write for the newspaper." Hannah smiled politely. "Nice to meet you. Are you going to write about tonight?" "Among other things." His eyes returned to Marie meaningfully. "I like to make sure I get the whole story, not just the parts some people want told." Marie was saved from responding by the arrival of the Caldwells at their own table. Ethan, in a perfectly tailored tuxedo that disguised the wheelchair as much as possible, entered first. Vanessa followed, resplendent in a designer gown, her diamonds catching the light. Parker trailed behind them, looking uncomfortable in his formal wear but marginally less sullen than usual. When the boy spotted Hannah, something shifted in his expression. He whispered something to his mother, who frowned slightly before nodding. A moment later, Parker approached their table. "Hi, Hannah." He shifted awkwardly from foot to foot. "Do you want to come see the boats? They have the yacht club doors open to the docks, and you can see all the big boats lit up." Hannah looked to Marie, who hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Stay where I can see you from the windows," she cautioned. As the children moved away, Jason leaned closer to Marie. Interesting development. The Caldwell heir and the housekeeper's daughter becoming friends. They're just kids, Marie said firmly. Nothing is just anything in that family. Jason sipped his champagne. Did you know that Ethan Caldwell was on the verge of losing control of his company before the accident? Marie stilled. What do you mean? Board pressure. Questions about his leadership since the car crash. Rumors of erratic behavior. Decisions that didn't make sense. Jason's voice was low, meant only for her. Then suddenly, he has this miraculous survival story. Public sympathy surges. The board backs off. That doesn't mean... And now this. Jason nodded toward the stage, where Vanessa was conferring with the event organizer, using your daughter as the cute face of their family's redemption story. Classic misdirection. Marie's retort died on her lips as Ethan's wheelchair suddenly appeared beside their table. She hadn't noticed him approach. Mr. Bennett. Ethan's voice was cold. I wasn't aware you were on the guest list. Jason smiled thinly. Last-minute press credential. Your wife's PR team approved it. Something dangerous flashed in Ethan's eyes, but his expression remained controlled. Marie, would you mind if I borrowed you for a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss regarding Hannah's upcoming schedule. Grateful for the escape, Marie excused herself. As Ethan led her toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, she glanced anxiously toward the windows, where she could see Hannah and Parker examining a display model of a racing yacht. You seem uncomfortable, Ethan observed, once they were relatively private. Is it the reporter? Marie hesitated. Her position was precarious. Ethan was both her employer and the man whose life her daughter had saved. The power dynamic couldn't be more unbalanced. Jason Bennett has been persistent. He has theories about your company. Bennett has been a thorn in my side for years, Ethan said dismissively. He builds conspiracy theories out of coincidences and sells them to boost his byline. He mentioned problems with your board. Before the accident, Ethan's face tightened almost imperceptibly. Did he? And what else did Mr. Bennett share during your conversations? The implications stung. They weren't conversations. He calls sometimes. I never tell him anything. But you listen. There was no accusation in Ethan's tone, just a weary understanding. It's all right, Marie. In your position, I'd probably listen too. Before she could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A man in an expensive but rumpled suit was arguing with security. Even from a distance, Marie could see he'd had too much to drink. That's Jonathan Wells, Ethan said, a new tension in his voice. My former business partner. Former. We had a disagreement about ethical boundaries in AI development. Ethan's gaze remained fixed on the disturbance. He left Coldtech 6 months ago. Not amicably. Security seemed to be winning the argument, guiding Wells toward the exit, but not before he spotted Ethan across the room. There he is, Wells shouted, voice carrying over the elegant murmur of the gala. The great humanitarian. Ask him about Project Oracle. Ask him what they're really building. Marie watched as Ethan's knuckles whitened on his wheelchair's armrests. Around them, guests pretended not to stare, conversations resuming with forced nonchalance. But the damage was done. Jason Bennett had abandoned their table and was hurrying toward the exit, presumably to follow Wells. I should get back to Hannah, Marie said quietly. Ethan nodded, his earlier warmth replaced by the cool efficiency she remembered from before the accident. Of course, when it's time for the presentation, Sandra will come for both of you. As Marie made her way back to the window area, she found Hannah and Parker deeply engaged in conversation, sitting on a bench overlooking the marina. And then Dad's company bought it, even though the original developers said they didn't want to sell, Parker was saying. That's when everything started getting weird at home. Weird how? Hannah asked. Parker shrugged. Dad stopped sleeping. Mum and Dad started fighting at night when they thought I couldn't hear. Then Dad had his accident and everything got even worse. Marie cleared her throat and both children looked up, startled. Having fun? Hannah nodded enthusiastically. Parker knows all about these boats. Did you know some of them cost more than houses? More than 10 houses, Parker corrected, his usual reserve momentarily forgotten in the pleasure of showing off his knowledge. That one with the blue lights? It belongs to a basketball player. It has its own helicopter pad. Marie smiled, hiding her unease at what she'd overheard. That's fascinating. But I think we need to head back inside. The program will be starting soon. As they rejoined the gala, Marie noticed Vanessa watching them from across the room, her expression unreadable. When their eyes met, Vanessa offered a practiced smile and a small wave, but there was something calculating in her gaze that made Marie's skin prickle. The evening proceeded with predictable elegance. Speeches about the charity's work, a video, presentation featuring photogenic children, an auction of luxury experiences. Finally, the moment arrived for Hannah's recognition. A spotlight found them at their table, and Sandra appeared to escort them to the stage. "You'll do great," Marie whispered, straightening Hannah's dress. "Just smile and say thank you." On stage, Vanessa took the microphone, her voice warm with practiced emotion. "Tonight, we honor extraordinary courage. 3 weeks ago, my husband Ethan experienced a terrifying accident at our home. Were it not for the quick thinking and bravery of a very special little girl, he might not be with us tonight." The spotlight shifted to Hannah, standing small but straight beside Marie. Her collective awe rippled through the audience. Hannah Thompson, just 7 years old, did what adults failed to do. She saw someone in trouble and acted without hesitation. Vanessa gestured for Hannah to join her at the microphone. For her, remarkable courage. The Horizon Children's Charity is proud to name Hannah our Young Hero of the Year and to announce a new scholarship fund in her name for underprivileged children showing exceptional character. Applause filled the ballroom as Vanessa presented Hannah with a small crystal trophy. Hannah, clearly uncomfortable with the attention but determined to be polite, leaned toward the microphone. "Thank you," she said simply. "But I'm not really a hero. I just did what was right. Anyone would do the same." Her sincerity cut through the practiced philanthropy of the evening like a beam of genuine light. Even Vanessa seemed momentarily disarmed by it. From his table, Ethan watched with an expression Marie couldn't quite decipher. Pride, certainly, but also something that looked almost like guilt. Parker, seated beside his father, had abandoned his usual screen to watch Hannah with undisguised admiration. As they left the stage, Marie spotted Jason Bennett slipping back into the ballroom, looking slightly disheveled but triumphant. He caught her eye and tapped his jacket pocket meaningfully. Whatever Jonathan Wells had told him, Jason clearly believed it was significant. Later that night, as Marie tucked an exhausted Hannah into bed, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Wells is ready to talk. Says your daughter might be in danger. Meet tomorrow?" Marie stared at the message, her heart racing. Was this more of Jason's conspiracy theories or something genuinely concerning? What had she heard Parker say about his father's company purchasing? Something the developers didn't want to sell? What was Project Oracle? Watching Hannah's peaceful sleep, Marie made a decision. She wouldn't meet with Jason, not yet. But she would start asking her own questions, beginning with Sandra Powell, who had always seemed the most straightforward of the Caldwell inner circle. She didn't know then that her questions would unravel not just the mystery of Ethan's accident, but the foundations of everything the Caldwells had built. The Monday following the gala, Marie arrived at the Caldwell mansion earlier than usual, hoping to catch Sandra before the day's meetings began. She found the executive assistant in her impeccable office adjacent to Ethan's study, already reviewing the day's schedule despite the early hour. "Marie," Sandra looked up, surprised. "Hannah's session isn't until 3. Is everything all right?" Marie closed the door behind her. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Sandra's professional demeanor wavered slightly. She'd always been cordial to Marie, more so than most of the Caldwell staff. "This sounds serious. It's about Project Oracle and about what happened to Ethan at the pool." The color drained from Sandra's face. She reached for her desk phone. "I should get Vanessa." "Please," Marie said quickly. "I'm not here to make trouble, But Hannah is involved now, and if there's something I should know, something that might affect her safety. Sandra's hand paused over the phone. After a moment of internal debate, she sighed and gestured for Marie to take a seat. What exactly do you think you know? Almost nothing, Marie admitted. Just rumors. Jonathan Wells made some accusations at the gala. The reporter, Jason Bennett, has been hinting that Ethan's accident might not have been an accident. And you believed them? Sandra's voice was carefully neutral. I don't know what to believe. That's why I'm asking you. Sandra studied Marie for a long moment before reaching a decision. She pressed a button on her desk, and the subtle hum of white noise filled the room. Electronic privacy screen, she explained. Ethan had it installed. After the corporate espionage incident last year, Marie waited, heart pounding. Project Oracle was an artificial intelligence initiative, Sandra began. Beyond cutting edge, not just predictive algorithms, but something approaching genuine cognition. Ethan acquired the core technology 6 months ago from a startup called Nexus Dynamics. Parker mentioned something about his father buying technology. The developers didn't want to sell. Sandra nodded grimly. The Nexus team was brilliant but idealistic. They believed AI of that caliber should be developed under strict ethical guidelines with public oversight. Ethan disagreed. He forced them to sell? Coldtech found leverage. One of the founders had visa issues. Another had a brother with expensive medical problems. They made offers that couldn't be refused. Sandra's voice held no judgment, just stating facts. Jonathan Wells opposed the acquisition. He and Ethan had been friends since college, built Coldtech together. The Oracle dispute was the breaking point. Marie tried to process this information. But what does this have to do with Ethan's accident? Sandra's professional mask slipped further, revealing genuine distress. 2 weeks before Ethan fell into the pool, he received a threat. Anonymous, untraceable. It said, "If Oracle goes online, you won't see the consequences coming." A chill ran through Marie. And you think whoever sent that threat pushed him into the pool? No one pushed him. Sandra's certainty was absolute. I've reviewed the security footage myself, frame by frame. Ethan's chair tipped when he leaned forward. It was an accident. Then, because the timing was suspicious, Sandra admitted, and because Ethan's behavior changed afterward. The board was pressuring him to step down before the accident. Concerns about his judgment, his increasing isolation since the car crash. After Hannah saved him, everything shifted. Public sympathy, a heroic narrative, and Ethan himself seemed different. Different how? More human, Sandra said simply. The Ethan I've worked for all these years has been brilliant but cold, calculating. Since that day in the pool, since Hannah, she shook her head slightly. It's like she reached something in him everyone else thought was gone. Marie considered. So the accident was real, but Ethan used it to his advantage. Vanessa did, Sandra corrected. The PR campaign, the charity gala, positioning Ethan as the sympathetic figure, that was all Vanessa. She's always been the strategist in their marriage. And Hannah, is she just part of the strategy too? Something softened in Sandra's expression. That's the one thing I'm certain isn't calculated. Whatever connection formed between Ethan and your daughter, it's genuine. I've known that man. For 15 years, Marie. He can't fake the way he is with her. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sandra quickly disabled the privacy screen as Vanessa entered, without waiting for a response. Sandra, we need to... Vanessa stopped abruptly, registering Marie's presence. Marie, is something wrong with Hannah? Just confirming some schedule. Changes, Sandra interjected smoothly. Hannah has a school field trip next Tuesday. Vanessa's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly, but she accepted the explanation. I see. Well, while you're here, Marie, we should discuss the Forbes interview. They want to feature Hannah in their future leaders spread, alongside their profile of Ethan. Another interview? Marie couldn't keep the weariness from her voice. We agreed Hannah's involvement would be limited. This is limited, Vanessa countered. One tasteful photo shoot, a few quotes about courage and perseverance. The narrative practically writes itself. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Think of the doors this will open for Hannah's future. Before Marie could respond, the mansion's security system activated with a harsh electronic tone. Sandra immediately reached for her tablet, eyes widening at what she saw. "It's Wells," she said to Vanessa. "He's at the gate with federal agents. They have a warrant." The composed mask Vanessa wore slipped for just a second, revealing something like fear before she regained control. "Stall them. I need to speak with Ethan." She strode from the room without another word. Sandra was already on the phone, presumably executing Vanessa's orders. Marie stood, uncertain what to do when her own phone buzzed. A text from Jason. "Feds raiding Coldtech HQ right now. Wells turned whistleblower. Get Hannah and get out." Marie's blood ran cold. "I have to go," she said to Sandra, who barely acknowledged her as she dealt with the unfolding crisis. In the main hallway, Marie nearly collided with Parker, who was supposed to be at school. The boy looked frightened. "They're saying Dad's in trouble," he blurted. "Mom's yelling at him in the study." "Parker, where's Hannah?" Marie asked urgently. "In the garden with Melissa," he said, referring to one of the housekeepers. "They're looking at butterflies." Marie headed for the garden doors, but Parker caught her arm. "Is my dad bad?" he asked, his voice small. "Wells was on the news this morning. He said Dad stole Oracle and was going to use it for something terrible." Yeah. Naked fear in the boy's eyes made Marie pause. Whatever was happening, Parker was an innocent caught in the middle, just like Hannah. "I don't know, Parker, but I do know your dad loves you very much." "He doesn't act like it," Parker said bitterly. Not until Hannah. He talks to her, he listens to her, he never listens to me." Marie made a split-second decision. "Come with me. Let's find Hannah together." They found Hannah and Melissa by the butterfly garden, blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding. Marie explained they needed to leave immediately, making up a story about a dentist appointment. As they headed for the side gate that would allow them to exit without passing the main entrance, where the federal agents were presumably arriving, Marie's phone rang, Ethan's private number. She hesitated, then answered. "Mr. Caldwell." "Marie." His voice was tight. "I assume you're aware of what's happening." "Only pieces. Hannah and I are leaving now." There was a pause. "Parker is missing from his room. Is he with you?" Marie glanced at the boy walking beside Hannah. "Yes, he found me inside." Another pause, longer this time. "Good, that's good. Keep them both with you. There are going to be unpleasant scenes here, things they shouldn't witness." "Mr. Caldwell, what's happening? Is Hannah in any danger?" "No." His response was immediate and firm. "Whatever else happens today, I promise you that. But Marie, take them to your apartment. Stay there until you hear from me or Sandra." "Are you in trouble?" She couldn't help asking. Ethan's laugh was humorless. "That depends on your definition of trouble. The technology we developed, it's complicated. The ethical questions, the potential applications, Wells doesn't understand what he's doing." In the background, Marie could hear Vanessa's voice, sharp with urgency. "Ethan's..." Next words came quickly. "I have to go, just keep them safe, and Marie, thank you. For everything." The line went dead. Marie stared at her phone, a sense of foreboding washing over her. Whatever was happening at the Caldwell mansion was beyond her understanding, but one thing was clear, she needed to protect Hannah. And now, it seemed Parker as well. At their small apartment, the children settled at the kitchen table with snacks while Marie tried to make sense of the situation. News alerts kept buzzing on her phone. Federal agents raid Coldtech headquarters. AI ethics violation allegations hit tech giant. Whistleblower claims Coldtech's Oracle project violated national security protocols. "Mom." Hannah appeared beside her, eyes wide with concern. "Is Mr. Caldwell going to be okay?" Marie put her phone down, forcing a reassuring smile. "I'm sure everything will work out, sweetie." "Parker's scared," Hannah whispered. "He thinks his dad is going to jail." Marie glanced at the boy, who was pretending to be absorbed in a game on his tablet, though his rigid posture betrayed his anxiety. "Why don't you two watch a movie?" Marie suggested, needing time to think. "You can show Parker your favorite butterfly documentary." Once the children were settled in front of the TV, Marie stepped onto the small balcony and called Jason. "I can't talk long," the reporter answered. "Immediately. It's chaos downtown. Wells brought receipts, Marie. Internal memos, test results, everything. Oracle isn't just an AI. It's an autonomous surveillance system beyond anything the public has seen." "What does that mean, exactly?" "It means Coldtech built a system that can predict human behavior with frightening accuracy, then sold early versions to clients with questionable intentions. Authoritarian governments, private military contractors." Jason's voice dropped lower. "The feds are treating it as a national security issue." Marie thought of Ethan with Hannah, his gentleness, his genuine interest in her butterfly projects, his quiet pride in her reading progress. Could the same man have created something so potentially dangerous? "What happens now?" she asked. "Hard to say. Coldtech stock is in freefall. There will be investigations, probably indictments. Ethan Caldwell's empire won't survive this intact." Jason paused. "How's the kid?" "Hannah's fine," Marie said automatically. "I meant the Caldwell boy. Word is he's missing from the estate." Marie's grip tightened on her phone. "He's safe. That's all that matters." "Marie, listen." Jason's tone grew urgent. "Whatever happens, with Coldtech you need to be careful. The Caldwells will be looking for someone to blame and—" A commotion in the background cut him off. "I have to go. Press conference starting. Be careful, Marie. This is bigger than you know." Inside, Marie found the children huddled together on the couch, the documentary forgotten as breaking news flashed across the screen. Marie lunged for the remote, but not before they saw Ethan's image alongside headlines about the federal investigation. "Dad's in trouble," Parker said, his voice hollow. "Just like before." "Before?" Marie asked gently. Parker wouldn't meet her eyes. "After his accident, when he started acting weird. Mom said he was just adjusting, but I heard them fighting. She said he was going to lose everything if he didn't pull himself together." Hannah moved closer to Parker, putting her small hand over his. "My mom says sometimes grown-ups have big problems that make them act different. It doesn't mean they don't love us." Parker looked at Hannah with a mixture of doubt and desperate hope. "Your mom isn't married to my dad." "No," Hannah agreed seriously. "But she works for him and she still says he's a good person who's just sad a lot." Marie watched this exchange with a lump in her throat. How had her 7-year-old become so wise? And how had she and Hannah become so entangled in the Caldwell's complicated world? As the afternoon wore on with no word from the mansion, Marie made dinner with their limited supplies. Parker ate silently, clearly unused to simple pasta and jarred sauce, but too polite to complain. Hannah chatted enough for both of them, determined to keep spirits up. Just as Marie was clearing the dishes, a knock came at the apartment door. Marie froze, then motioned for the children to go to Hannah's room. Through the peephole, she saw Sandra Powell, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "It's just me," Sandra said when Marie opened the door cautiously. "May I come in?" Once inside, Sandra sank onto a kitchen chair, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. "Is Parker all right?" "Worried, but yes, they both are." Sandra nodded. "Good, that's what matters most." She reached into her bag and withdrew a sealed envelope. "Ethan asked me to give you this personally. Not even Vanessa knows I'm here." Marie accepted the envelope with trepidation. "What's happening, Sandra? The news is saying—" "The news doesn't know half of it," Sandra interrupted. "But what matters right now is the children's safety, particularly Parker's." "Why Parker's?" Marie felt a new surge of concern. Sandra's gaze was direct, unflinching. "Because Vanessa is looking for someone to blame, and right now she's fixated on the idea that you and Hannah somehow caused all of this." The accusation was so absurd that Marie almost laughed. "How could we possibly—" "By changing Ethan," Sandra said simply. "After Hannah saved him, he started questioning everything. The ethics of Project Oracle, the company's direction, his own legacy. He even began talking about restructuring Cold Tech to prioritize ethical AI development over profit. Her expression turned grim. Vanessa was livid. She's worked too hard crafting their empire to watch Ethan dismantle it over an attack of conscience. Marie looked toward Hannah's bedroom door, where the children were hopefully out of earshot. What does this mean for us? Read the letter, Sandra advised, rising to leave. And Marie, be careful who you trust, including me. With that cryptic warning, she was gone, leaving Marie alone with the sealed envelope and a growing sense that her daughter's simple act of courage had set in motion changes none of them could have anticipated. The envelope sat on Marie's kitchen table like a live thing, demanding attention yet somehow threatening. After checking that Hannah and Parker were engrossed in a board game in the bedroom, Marie finally slid her finger beneath the seal and extracted a single sheet of expensive stationery. Ethan's handwriting was precise and angular, the pressure of his pen evident in the deep impressions on the paper. Marie, by now you've heard the allegations against me and Cold Tech. Some are exaggerated, others are not. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the complicated middle. What matters is this: Parker isn't safe at the mansion right now. Not because of federal agents or legal proceedings, but because of Vanessa. Our marriage has been a business arrangement for years. She married my potential. I married her family connections. When I was injured, the balance of power shifted. She saw weakness. I saw clarity. Neither of us has been right since. Project Oracle began as something revolutionary, an AI system that could predict natural disasters, disease outbreaks, market fluctuations. But Vanessa saw its darker applications. She was the one who pushed for the government contracts, the security applications. I allowed it because it was easier than fighting her, because I had retreated into my own isolation after the accident. Then, Hannah pulled me from that pool, and something broke open inside me. I saw myself through her eyes, not as a powerful titan of industry, but as a man in need of saving, a man who could be better than he had been. I began dismantling the more ethically questionable aspects of Oracle. Vanessa was furious. Wells became my ally in this, until Vanessa found leverage against him too. Now he's turned whistleblower, thinking he's exposing me, when he's really exposing what Vanessa orchestrated while I was too lost in my own darkness to stop her. I'm telling you this because I need your help. Keep Parker with you for now. I've transferred funds to an account in your name. Enough to ensure you, Hannah, and Parker will be comfortable while this situation resolves. The details are enclosed on a separate card. I've also arranged for security. The man in the blue sedan outside your building is former military, thoroughly vetted. He'll keep his distance but remain vigilant. Vanessa has resources and fewer scruples than you might imagine. Marie, I know I have no right to ask this of you. Our relationship began with you cleaning my home and has evolved into something I can't quite define. But I believe you understand. What matters most here, the children. Hannah saved more than my life that day. She saved whatever humanity I had left. Let me repay that debt by ensuring both she and Parker remain safe from the storm that's coming. I'll contact you when I can. Ethan. Marie read the letter twice, her hands trembling slightly. The implications were staggering. She moved to the window and peered through the blinds. Sure enough, a dark blue sedan was parked across the street, a man in sunglasses sitting motionless behind the wheel. Her phone rang. Jason again. Not now, she murmured, sending the call to voicemail. Whatever the reporter wanted, it would have to wait. She needed to think. A separate card had indeed fallen from the envelope. Marie picked it up, her eyes widening at the account information. The sum Ethan had transferred was more money than she would earn in 20 years of cleaning houses. Mom? Hannah stood in the kitchen doorway, Parker hovering behind her. Is everything okay? You look scared. Marie quickly tucked the letter and card into her pocket. Everything's fine, sweetie. Just grown-up problems. How's the game going? Parker's winning, Hannah reported. He's really good at strategy. Parker managed a small smile, though his eyes remained troubled. My dad taught me, before he got, hurt. Marie made a decision. Parker, can you come sit with me for a minute? Hannah, why don't you pick out a book we can all read together afterward? While Hannah scampered to her small bookshelf, Marie sat with Parker at the kitchen table. Your dad sent a letter, she said gently. He wants you to stay with us for a little while until things settle down at home. Parker's face remained carefully neutral, a child practiced at hiding his emotions. Because of the federal investigation? Such adult words from such a young boy. Marie chose her next words carefully. Partly, but mostly because he thinks you'll be happier here right now. Less stress, less media attention. Did he say anything else? Parker asked, a hint of yearning breaking through his composure. Marie thought of Ethan's words about his marriage, about Vanessa's role in the Oracle project. None of that was appropriate to share with a 12-year-old boy. He said he's working to fix the problems at Caltech, and that he cares about you very much. Parker looked down at his hands. He has a funny way of showing it. Sometimes, Marie said softly, parents don't know how to show love the right way, especially when they're dealing with their own problems. Like being paralyzed, Parker murmured. That would be hard for anyone, Marie agreed, but it doesn't mean the love isn't there. Parker was quiet for a long moment. When I was little, Dad used to take me sailing, just the two of us. He'd let me steer sometimes even though I was too small to really control the boat. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. After his accident, I thought we'd never do anything like that again. I thought he didn't want to do things with me anymore because it reminded him of what he couldn't do. Marie's heart ached for the boy. That might be exactly what happened, Parker. Sometimes when people are hurting, they push away the people they love most. But he didn't push Hannah away, Parker said, a hint of the old resentment creeping. Becca, that's different, Marie explained. Hannah came into his life after the accident. There's no before and after with her. Just now. Understanding dawned slowly on Parker's face. So it's not that he loves her more than me. Of course not, Marie assured him. You're his son. That bond is forever. Hannah returned, arms laden with books. I couldn't decide, so I brought options. Parker glanced at the pile, then selected one from the middle, a worn copy of The Wind in the Willows. My dad used to read this to me, he said quietly, before. That night, after both children were asleep, Hannah in her bed, Parker on the pull-out sofa, Marie finally listened to Jason's voicemail. Marie, things are moving fast. The Feds seized Oracle's core servers. Wells is singing like a canary, but he's throwing Vanessa under the bus, not Ethan. Says she was the one pushing the surveillance applications, making deals with foreign entities. I'm working on a piece that tells the whole story, but I need to talk to you. There are rumors about the real reason Ethan's accident 2 years ago. Call me. Marie deleted the message. Whatever Jason's theories, they would have to wait. Her priority now was keeping Hannah and Parker safe, while the Caldwell empire imploded. The next morning brought a flurry of news alerts. Caltech stock had plummeted further. The board had called an emergency meeting. Vanessa Caldwell had released a statement distancing herself from Project Oracle, claiming she had minimal involvement in day-to-day operations and had been focused on philanthropic initiatives. Marie made pancakes, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for the children. She called Hannah's school to explain her absence, then contacted Parker's private academy using the email address Ethan had included in his letter. The school administrator seemed unsurprised, informing Marie that Mr. Caldwell has already made arrangements for Parker's temporary homeschooling. Of course he had. Ethan's efficiency apparently extended even to crisis management. After breakfast, while the children were setting up Parker's laptop for his online classes, a text message arrived from Sandra. V looking for P claimed you kidnapped him. E intervened. Stay alert. Marie's blood ran cold. Kidnapping? The accusation was absurd, but given the Caldwell's resources and connections, potentially devastating. Another text followed quickly. E moved to secure location. Legal team handling everything. We'll update when possible. Marie sent Hannah and Parker to work on their respective schoolwork, then paced the small apartment, feeling trapped. The blue sedan remained outside, its driver occasionally scanning the street but otherwise motionless. Protection or surveillance? Ethan had promised the former, but after everything that had happened, could she truly trust his word? Her phone rang, a Southampton number she didn't recognize. "Hello," she answered cautiously. "Ms. Thompson, this is Principal Watkins from Southampton Elementary. I'm calling because we've received some concerning inquiries about Hannah." Marie's grip tightened on the phone. "What kind of inquiries?" "A woman claiming to be Hannah's godmother called requesting information about her attendance and asking if anyone had picked her up from school. When our secretary explained we couldn't release that information, she became quite insistent, said it was a family emergency." "Hannah doesn't have a godmother," Marie said, her voice steady despite her rising alarm. "That's what seemed odd. We have you listed as the only authorized contact." The principal paused. "Given your connection to the current situation with the Caldwell family, I wanted to check in directly. News traveled fast in Southampton. Hannah is home with me today, she's fine. But thank you for calling, and please don't release any information about her to anyone." "Of course not," Principal Watkins assured her. "We take student privacy very seriously." After ending the call, Marie checked the windows again. The blue sedan was still there, but now a black SUV with tinted windows had parked further down the street. Her instincts screamed danger. She texted Sandra. "Someone pretending to be Hannah's godmother contacted her school. Black SUV watching. The apartment now." The response came immediately. "Get out, safe house ready, 1460 Harborview Lane. Code for gate 7729. Go now." Marie moved with calm efficiency born of necessity. "Hannah, Parker, we need to leave, field trip. Pack only what you absolutely need." To their credit, both children responded to the urgency in her voice without question. Within 10 minutes, they had essential clothes and belongings in backpacks. Marie grabbed Ethan's letter, her identification, and Hannah's favorite stuffed animal, a plush butterfly Ethan had given her after learning about her fascination with them. The apartment had only one exit, but the building had a service stairwell that led to a back alley. Marie had never used it, but she'd noted it when they moved in, a single mother's instinct for escape routes. "We're going on an adventure," she told the children as they descended the narrow stairs, "like in the books we read. But we have to be very quiet and follow directions exactly." Hannah nodded solemnly, holding Parker's hand. The boy looked frightened but resolute, squeezing Hannah's fingers as if drawing strength from her certainty. In the alley, Marie hesitated. They couldn't take her car, it would be too obvious. Public transportation seemed too exposed. She was contemplating their limited options when a weathered pickup truck turned into the alley, stopping a few yards away. The window rolled down, revealing Sandra Powell, her usual polished appearance replaced by jeans and a plain t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Get in," she called softly. "Quickly." Marie hesitated only a moment before ushering the children into the truck's back seat. As she climbed into the passenger side, she gave Sandra a questioning look. "My brother's truck," Sandra explained, already pulling away. "Less conspicuous than anything connected to the Caldwells. I've been watching the apartment since dawn." "What's happening, Sandra?" The executive assistant's eyes remained fixed on the road as she navigated through back streets, clearly avoiding main thoroughfares. "Vanessa has filed for emergency custody of Parker, claiming Ethan is mentally unfit and you've been manipulating him through Hannah. It's nonsense, but with her connections, the filing is being fast-tracked." "That's insane," Marie protested. "Ethan asked me to keep Parker safe. I have his letter, which a good lawyer will claim he wrote under duress or during a mental health crisis." Sandra took a sharp turn, checking the rearview mirror. "Ethan anticipated this, that's why we have the safe house ready." In the back seat, Parker spoke up. "Is my mom trying to take me away?" Sandra's eyes met his in the rearview mirror. "Your parents are having a disagreement about what's best for you right now. Until they sort it out, your dad wants you somewhere neutral and safe. With Hannah and Ms. Thompson, Parker clarified, as if confirming something important to himself. Yes, Sandra confirmed, with people who care about you. Hannah, who had been listening intently, put her arm around Parker's shoulders. It's okay. My mum takes care of everyone, and I'll be right here. As they drove toward the eastern edge of Southampton, away from the exclusive coastal estates and toward the more modest waterfront properties near the working harbour, Marie struggled to make sense of the rapid deterioration of the situation. Just weeks ago, her biggest concern had been making rent while saving for Hannah's future. Now they were fleeing to a safe house, caught in the implosion of a billionaire's empire and marriage. Almost there, Sandra announced as they turned onto Harbour View Lane, a quiet street of small but well-maintained cottages overlooking the commercial docks. She stopped before a pale blue house set back from the road, partially hidden by mature oak trees. Their keypad secured the gate in a privacy fence. As they approached the house, Marie noticed small security cameras positioned discreetly around the property. The safe house might look modest, but its security was clearly sophisticated. Inside, the cottage was simply furnished but comfortable. Coastal decor, open floor plan, 3 bedrooms visible down a short hallway. It smelled of fresh paint and new textiles, as if it had been recently prepared. This belongs to Ethan personally, Sandra explained. Not Coldtech, not the family trust. Vanessa doesn't know about it. He bought it after the accident when he was considering different futures. Different how? Marie asked. Sandra's expression softened. Simpler, away from the empire he'd built. I think the accident made him question everything, but he didn't have the courage to act on those questions until Hannah pulled him from that pool. She glanced at her watch. I need to get back before my absence is noticed. There's food in the kitchen, secure tablets for the children's schoolwork, and a burner phone in the drawer by the sink. I'll be the only one who contacts that number. As Sandra prepared to leave, Parker suddenly spoke up. Is my dad okay? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Sandra's composed features. Your dad is very strong, Parker, and very smart. He's working to fix things so you can all be safe. It wasn't quite an answer, and Parker was perceptive enough to notice, but he nodded, accepting what she could offer. When Sandra was gone, Marie locked the door and drew the blinds. Hannah. And Parker explored the cottage with cautious curiosity, while Marie tried to process their new reality. She found herself standing before a window that faced the harbour, watching fishing boats return with the day's catch, their ordinary routines continuing while her world had been turned upside down. On the refrigerator, held by a simple magnet, she found another note in Ethan's distinctive handwriting. If you're reading this, things have escalated as I feared. I'm sorry to have drawn you into this chaos, but grateful you're here to protect what matters most. There are truths about Oracle I haven't shared with anyone. Truths that could change everything. Stay here until you hear from me or Sandra directly. Trust no one else. E. Marie removed the note, folding it carefully and placing it with his letter in her pocket. Whatever truths Ethan was hiding, whatever game Vanessa was playing, one thing was clear. Hannah and Parker had become central pieces on a dangerous chessboard, and Marie was their only protection. From the living room came the sound of children's laughter, Hannah teaching Parker a clapping game she'd learned at school. The normalcy of it amid such extraordinary circumstances brought tears to Marie's eyes. We'll be okay, she whispered to herself, a promise she intended to keep at any cost. We'll all be okay. But as night fell over the harbour, bringing with it a thick fog that obscured the lights of the distant boats, Marie couldn't shake the feeling that they were merely in the eye of the storm, and that the worst was yet to come. 3 days passed in the harbour cottage, a strange bubble of calm amid the chaos unfolding in the outside world. Marie maintained as much normalcy as possible. Meals at regular times, schoolwork in the mornings, games and reading in the afternoons. Both children adapted with remarkable resilience, though Parker checked the news obsessively on his tablet when he thought Marie wasn't looking. The headlines grew more dramatic by the day. Coldtech board votes to suspend Ethan Caldwell. Oracle project faces. Congressional inquiry. Vanessa Caldwell claims husband mentally unstable since accident. Most concerning was the most recent. Search continues for missing Caldwell heir, housekeeper questioned. The article featured Marie's employee ID, photo from Caltech, alongside speculation about her role in Parker's disappearance. Jason Bennett was quoted extensively, describing Marie as a key figure in understanding the human drama behind Caltech's fall. She felt betrayed, though she knew it was naive to have expected journalistic restraint from a reporter chasing the biggest story of his career. Sandra called daily on the burner phone, providing updates in her efficient, measured way. Ethan had voluntarily submitted to psychiatric evaluation to counter Vanessa's claims of mental instability. The legal battle was intensifying, with Vanessa's team painting a picture of a manipulative housekeeper who had used her daughter to gain influence over a vulnerable man. "It's absurd," Sandra assured Marie. But Vanessa has powerful friends and a very effective PR team. She's fighting for control of Caltech now, positioning herself as the victim who was kept in the dark about Oracle's more questionable applications. And Ethan? What's he fighting for? Marie asked. A pause. Redemption, I think. And Parker. On the fourth morning, Marie woke before dawn to the sound of the burner phone vibrating. Sandra's voice was tense, urgent. "Turn on the news. Channel 8. Now." Marie fumbled for the remote, keeping the volume low to avoid waking the children. The screen filled with a press conference outside Caltech headquarters. Ethan sat in his wheelchair at a table lined with microphones, looking exhausted, but composed. Beside him sat Jonathan Wells, the former partner who had started the whistleblowing. The Chiron read, "Breaking Caldwell and Wells reveal Oracle truth." "Must take full responsibility," Ethan was saying, his voice steady. "While it's true that certain applications of Oracle were developed without my direct involvement, I remained CEO. The ethical failures are ultimately mine." Wells leaned toward his microphone. "What Mr. Caldwell isn't saying is that he's been working for months to dismantle the more problematic aspects of Oracle. After his pool accident, he experienced what his doctors describe as a profound shift. In perspective, he began questioning the very technology he'd helped create." A reporter shouted from the crowd, "Is it true Oracle was sold to foreign governments for surveillance purposes?" Ethan nodded grimly. "Certain components were licensed." "Yes. Those contracts have now been terminated, at significant financial cost to Caltech. But the core of Oracle, the truly revolutionary aspect that could help predict natural disasters, disease outbreaks, climate events, that remains intact and will be placed under independent ethical oversight." Another shout, "Mr. Caldwell, your wife has claimed you're mentally unfit since your accident. How do you respond?" Something flashed in Ethan's eyes, pain, perhaps, or anger quickly controlled. "The accident changed me, yes. Nearly drowning a second time and being saved by a child's courage changed me further. If questioning the ethics of my life's work makes me unfit in some eyes, so be it. But multiple psychiatric evaluations have confirmed my mental competence." Wells spoke again, his tone measured. "I came forward because I believed the public deserved the truth about Oracle, but Ethan Caldwell deserves the truth as well. He was deliberately kept in the dark about certain applications while recovering from his accident. Those who managed those projects knew he would object." The camera cut to a reporter. "Are you referring to Vanessa Caldwell?" Before Wells could answer, Ethan raised a hand. "My wife and I have different visions for Caltech's future. That's now a matter for our board, our shareholders, and yes, our divorce attorneys. But my immediate concern is my son, Parker, who has been portrayed as missing or kidnapped. My son is safe. He is with people I trust implicitly, away from the media circus and legal battles that no child should witness." Marie's breath caught. The camera lingered on Ethan's face as he continued, now speaking directly to the camera. "To those caring for my son, thank you. Your compassion and courage continue to teach me what truly matters. Parker, if you're watching, I love you. More than any company, any invention, any legacy. I'm fighting to become the father you deserve." The broadcast cut to stunned anchors in the studio, but Marie had heard enough. She turned off the television just as Hannah appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Was that Mr. Caldwell?" "On TV?" she asked. Yes, sweetie, he was talking about Parker. Is Parker in trouble? Marie shook her head. No, but his parents are having a very grown-up disagreement about what's best for him. Hannah considered this, like when my friend Zoe's parents got divorced and fought about where she would live. Something like that, Marie acknowledged, always surprised by her daughter's perceptiveness. Parker should get to choose, Hannah said firmly. He's old enough. From behind Hannah, Parker's voice came quietly. I want to stay with my dad, but not in the mansion, not with all the lawyers and reporters and everyone watching us all the time. Marie turned to find the boy standing in the hallway, tablet in hand. His expression was solemn, but there was a new certainty in his eyes. I saw Dad on the news just now. He looked different, like he meant what he said. I think he did, Marie said gently. Parker nodded. When can we go home? The question hung in the air, complicated by the fact that home had become an uncertain concept for all of them. Before Marie could formulate a response, the burner phone rang again. We've had a development, Sandra said without preamble. Vanessa has agreed to a temporary truce, joint legal custody, with Parker staying primarily with Ethan. She's backing off the accusations against you, Marie. Why the sudden change? Marie asked, suspicious. Jonathan Wells had more evidence than anyone realized. Emails directly from Vanessa to certain clients, bypassing proper channels, promising oracle capabilities that went far beyond ethical boundaries. He held them back initially, hoping to resolve things without destroying her completely, but when she began targeting you and Hannah in the press, Sandra trailed off meaningfully. So she's backing down to protect herself. Precisely. There's more, though. The psychiatric evaluations revealed something unexpected about Ethan's accident 2 years ago, the car crash that paralyzed him. Marie waited, her pulse quickening. It wasn't an accident, Sandra said quietly. It was a suicide attempt. After years of driving himself relentlessly, sacrificing everything for Coldtech's success, he crashed that car deliberately. He's authorized me to tell you this because he wants you to understand why Hannah's act of saving him was so profound. It wasn't just that she saved his life in that pool, she made him want to live it. Marie sank into a chair, overwhelmed. Everything suddenly made more sense. Ethan's isolation after the accident, his profound connection with Hannah, his determination to change despite Vanessa's resistance. What happens now? Marie asked. Ethan would like to see Parker and Hannah, too, if that's all right with you. He's at the Southampton Medical Center for some follow-up treatments related to the pool incident. The press doesn't know he's there. They think he's still at Coldtech headquarters. It would be a private meeting, completely secure. Marie looked at the children, now sitting together at the cottage's small dining table, sharing a tablet as they researched butterflies for Hannah's postponed school project. Their unlikely friendship, forged in extraordinary circumstances, had become something precious to them both. We'll come, she decided. 2 hours later, they were escorted through a service entrance at Southampton Medical Center and up to a private wing. Sandra led them to a sunlit room where Ethan sat by the window, not in his usual high-tech wheelchair, but in a simpler hospital model. He looked thinner, tired, but his eyes brightened immediately when they entered. Parker, he breathed, opening his arms. The boy hesitated only a moment before crossing the room and allowing his father to embrace him. Dad, are you okay? Really okay? I'm getting there, Ethan said honestly. With help. He looked over Parker's shoulder at Hannah, who hung back shyly beside Marie. Hello, my little rescuer. Hannah smiled. Hi, Mr. Caldwell, we've been staying in your blue house. It has a nice view of the boats. I'm glad you like it. Ethan's gaze shifted to Marie, filled with gratitude and something more complicated. Thank you. For everything. Sandra discreetly stepped out, leaving the four of them alone. For the next hour, they talked, really talked, about everything that had happened. Ethan explained to Parker, in age-appropriate terms, about the problems with Oracle, about his changing relationship with Vanessa, about his hopes for rebuilding their father-son relationship on more authentic ground. It won't be easy, he told Parker honestly. There will be legal proceedings, media attention, a lot of changes at Caltech, but none of that is as important as you. I see that now. Parker, sitting close to his father, asked the question that clearly weighed most heavily on him. Where will we live? Mom doesn't want me to be with you full time. She told me so before everything happened. Ethan sighed. Your mother loves you, Parker, in her way. We're working on an arrangement that will give you stability while allowing you time with both of us. But I was hoping, he glanced at Marie, I was hoping we might start with the harbor cottage. It's peaceful there, away from everything. We could heal. Marie understood what he was really asking, not just for a place to stay with Parker, but for her and Hannah to remain part of their lives. The realization was both frightening and exhilarating. The cottage is nice, Hannah piped up, oblivious to the undercurrents, but it only has 3 bedrooms. Where would everybody sleep? The innocent question broke the tension, bringing smiles to all their faces. We'll figure it out, Marie assured her, one step at a time. Later, as the children explored the hospital's small garden under Sandra's watchful eye, Ethan and Marie finally had a moment alone. I should have told you everything. From the beginning, he said quietly. About the accident, about Vanessa, about Oracle. I thought I was protecting you and Hannah, but really I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me differently if you knew the truth. And how should I see you? Marie asked, genuinely curious. Ethan considered the question carefully. As a flawed man, trying to be better, as someone who built something remarkable and then had to face its darker potential, as a father who failed his son but is fighting to make amends. He paused, his gaze direct and vulnerable. As someone who was drowning long before he fell into that pool, and who was saved not just by a child's bravery, but by her capacity to see the person worth saving. Marie felt tears prick her eyes. Hannah has always seen people that way. It's her gift. She gets it from you, Ethan said softly. The way you treated Parker these past days, protecting him alongside your own daughter, that came from the same place. Through the window, they could see Hannah showing Parker how to make a daisy chain, their heads bent together in concentration. The sight filled Marie with a strange certainty that whatever came next, these children would be all right. The media circus won't die down anytime soon, Ethan warned. Even with Vanessa backing off her accusations, there will be stories about us, speculation, gossip. They'll try to make it tawdry, the billionaire and the housekeeper. Marie smiled slightly. Let them talk. We know the truth. And what is the truth, Marie? Ethan asked, a vulnerability in his voice she'd never heard before. She thought carefully before answering. That a little girl jumped into a pool without hesitation, and everything changed. That 2 children who might never have met became friends who need each other. That second chances sometimes come in unexpected forms. She met his gaze steadily. The rest, we'll figure out together, one day at a time. Ethan reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. His grip was warm, solid, no longer the remote titan of industry, but simply a man finding his way back to what mattered. Outside, Hannah had crowned Parker with her completed daisy chain, making him laugh in a way Marie suspected was rare for him. New beginnings, indeed. 6 months later, the harbor cottage had become home. The scandal had faded from headlines, replaced by new dramas and crises. Caltech had survived, restructured under joint leadership, with an ethics board that included Jonathan Wells. Oracle, stripped of its surveillance capabilities, was being developed as Ethan had originally envisioned, a tool for predicting natural disasters and disease outbreaks. Vanessa had settled in Manhattan, focused on rebuilding her social standing. She saw Parker every other weekend, in carefully orchestrated outings that both mother and son seemed to prefer to longer visits. The rest of the time, Parker lived at the cottage with Ethan, who had converted the ground floor to accommodate his wheelchair. Marie and Hannah occupied the small guest house at the back of the property, close enough to share meals and daily life, but with boundaries that allowed their unusual family arrangement to develop at its own pace. Hannah had returned to school, now accompanied by a discreet security detail that Ethan insisted on maintaining, even as the media interest waned. Her friendship with Parker had deepened into something like siblinghood. They squabbled over board games, collaborated on science projects, and fiercely defended each other when needed. As for Marie and Ethan, they were taking things slowly. And the billionaire and the housekeeper, such different worlds, such different experiences. But the bond formed through extraordinary circumstances had proven resilient, growing into something neither could have anticipated. On this particular evening, as autumn painted the harbor in golds and reds, they sat on the cottage's porch, watching Hannah and Parker skip stones across the calm water. "She still doesn't understand what she did," Marie said, following Ethan's gaze to Hannah. To her, jumping into that pool was the most natural thing in the world. "That's what makes it remarkable," Ethan replied. "She acted without calculation, without weighing consequences or benefits. The opposite of how I've lived most of my life." He turned to Marie. "I'm still learning how to do that." Marie smiled. "You're getting better at it." From the shore came Hannah's triumphant shout as her stone skipped 5 times before sinking. Parker immediately tried to match her feat, their competitive spirits fully engaged. "I received another offer for my story today," Ethan mentioned casually. "Book deal, possible film rights. The publicist called it an inspiring tale of redemption and unlikely heroes." "And what did you tell them?" Marie asked, though she already knew the answer. "The same thing I tell everyone. The real story isn't for sale." He watched the children with a contentment that had been unimaginable a year ago. Some things are too precious to be turned into entertainment. Marie nodded, understanding completely. What had happened that day at the Caldwell mansion, a child's instinctive bravery, a man's second chance, the ripples that had transformed all their lives, wasn't a story for public consumption. It was theirs, to be honored through how they lived each day that followed. As the sun set over the harbor, painting the sky in breathtaking hues of orange and pink, Hannah ran up the path toward them, Parker close behind. "Mom, Ethan, we saw a butterfly, a monarch. Parker says they're migrating south for winter. Can we follow them in the boat tomorrow, please?" Ethan laughed, a sound that had become wonderfully common. "Not all the way to Mexico, but we could take the boat out and see how many we spot." Hannah beamed, then turned to Parker. "See? I told you he'd say yes." "You were right," Parker admitted, still slightly breathless from running. The change in him over these months had been remarkable, the quiet, sullen boy giving way to a more confident, open child. "You usually are." As the children raced back to the shore for one last stone-skipping competition before dinner, Marie felt Ethan's hand find hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. They'd built something here, not an empire of technology and wealth, but something far more valuable. A family formed by choice rather than obligation, by courage rather than convention. "I never thought I'd say this," Ethan murmured, "but falling into that pool was the best thing that ever happened to me." Marie squeezed his hand. "It's not how we fall that defines us," she said softly. "It's who's there to help us back up." As darkness settled over the harbor, lights came on in the cottage window.